Grow Great is a city government leadership podcast with Lisa Norris and me, Randy Cantrell. Each week we share insights, experiences, and wisdom to help you and your leadership grow great. Our website is growgreat.com.
T.S. Eliot wrote, "Most of the trouble in the world is caused by people wanting to be important." Pride. Lisa and I talk a lot about this leadership recipe, these 5 ingredients, and the very first one is humility. Now, the counter to humility is obviously pride, hubris.
Ego.
And so I don't know. I just wanted to have a brief conversation, Lisa, about the devastating effect that pride has on our leadership. And I'll fall on the sword and freely admit, I think I have admitted this before. I know I've admitted this to people that are clients. Every leadership failure, that's correct, 100%, 100% of my leadership failures have come from my pride getting in my way. There's no exception to that. And in talking with other leaders over the course of the last 15 years or so of coaching, and I've asked, let's talk about the failures and let's talk about what went wrong. You can invariably track it back. I've seen it over and over and over and over. So this is not just some kumbaya kind of a topic. There is a real world value here and return on investment if we can harness our ego. And as T.S. Eliot said, if we can avoid, most of the trouble in the world is caused by people wanting to be important, because that speaks directly to our pride.
Yeah. It speaks to leadership, that leadership is not about the power that you gain. It's about the influence you can have. And so many people have talked about, I agree with you. Let me go back a step. I agree with you, first of all, because the failures I have seen in leadership every time have pride and ego at its core. Doesn't mean there's not other things with it.
Yeah.
But every time either somebody has gotten, you hear the term a big head, like power has gone to their head, and you see a shift, and they feel like, now that I am in charge, I can change my demeanor. I can be harder on people. I can make the decisions and tell them what to do. And you just see this horrible shift that you're like, what happened? They were on this trajectory of being, you can see it becoming amazing, and it turns.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've experienced it, and it's painful. It's painful as a leader to watch it, and you try to save it and salvage it. Very difficult. In fact, I haven't yet been successful, as much as I'm willing to try, to change that, because you can see it happening before your eyes is the only way. Even if they're not close to you, I can see it from a distance, and I'm just like, oh, this is not going to end well. I mean, because often the problem is they don't see it themselves. They think they're doing everything well, right, perfectly. They're the smartest person in the room. They don't need guidance. They don't need advice. We've all seen it, and in our very definition of leadership that Randy and I have promoted and believe in is a focus on others. When you are prideful, and when you have so much pride that it blinds you, you only see yourself. You're proud of who you have become and what you can do, but the pride has turned negative.
Yeah, and the irony of the T.S. Eliot quote is that wanting to be important, the path to literally and actually being more important is to kind of sacrifice yourself.
That's
is to kind of put people ahead of you. You become very important.
Yes.
A city manager sitting with me a long time ago, and they're going through a bit of a transition. There were some council issues, as is often the case,
Mhm.
and was inquiring, what advice did I have as far as moving forward? And, this is a person that had known me for a while, and we'd been working together for a while. And I said, I don't know that I got anything super profound
Mhm.
to lay on you, except for the fact that if a city can build an organization, if leadership can build a leadership team,
Mhm.
an organization of people, the world's your oyster, because it's a rare skill that is mostly killed by pride and ego.
That's right.
And my position on that has not changed based on my experience. I was thinking, as you were kind of recounting there, all of the times that I have a conversation with somebody in a city, and invariably this phrase gets uttered. I've just got to really be careful and make sure that it's my boss's idea. It's got to be my boss's idea. I got to make sure that however I present this needs to be my boss's idea. And you're just like, what a constraint.
Right.
What a stinking hurdle to high performance that is, because the person that is our boss, who may not, by the way, be our leader, but they kind of necessarily are, that we have to make sure that we stroke their ego so that they can feel important. And the problem always is it's at our expense.
Mhm.
And that's why it doesn't work. It's one of the many reasons it doesn't work. As opposed to the fact, and I have this conversation way too frequently, especially with leaders that seem to be struggling with this whole credit. Who gets credit for things? And it's like, wait a minute, they're a direct report to you. Explain to me how you don't see that their success is your success.
Right.
I mean, I have this conversation with clients sometimes. If you can't see that your success is my success, that it's in my best interest for you to soar, I mean, what's wrong with this picture?
That's right.
if you can't see that, and I think
you can never be a high performing team if
No.
ego's in the way. You will never. It doesn't matter how hard the team tries. If
No.
ego and pride are in the way, it will not happen. It will not come to fruition because it blocks it.
That's right. That's right. So what advice do you have, if any?
Well, the challenge with this, I'm trying to think, the challenge with pride and ego, and you were the one that honestly brought it to my attention because I hadn't defined it that way. When you talked about it, I knew what it meant.
Mm-hmm.
But when you had asked me the question that we were now talking about, and you said, have you ever seen success in a person with a high ego or with pride? And this was probably a year ago.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what we were talking about, but I remember the question, and I'm like, well, and you went, no, because I was thinking on it. You said, never will there be. Now that, can they still lead? Yes. I think your explanation was, yeah, they can lead with tyranny. They can.
Yeah, they could still be the boss. They could still be the boss.
They're just not going to be a well thought of. They're not going to be they can still, I call it highly effective. They can be effective in the role, getting things done, but they're going to have turnover. They're going to leave a wake behind them of destruction.
Well, it's kind of the negativity.
It's how you define it.
Yeah,
right?
it's kind of the negativity of it's the negative thing of tyranny is that it does work for a time.
Right.
It doesn't work over the long haul, but it can work in the short term, and in the right situation, it can work really, really well.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it because I'm the guy that's going to look at it. Okay, well, if that's what it looks like with a lot of pride, with a lot of ego, but we're presupposing that that's superior to if you could tamp that down, if you could control that, if you could share credit, if you could pay more homage to the team, you're presupposing that the ego way is superior to the other. And I'd like to see proof of that.
Yeah.
Because I happen to believe that even okay, well, we're hitting our marks, we're hitting our number, we're hitting our quotas, we're whatever the metrics is, we're hitting it with this ego-filled leadership. You see, I'm the guy. But what if? Could it be 2x?
Yeah.
Could you be doing double what you're doing? Could your efficiency be better, morale be better, turnover be lower? Could all of the measurements be dramatically better if you kind of got out of the way and stopped taking all the credit?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't all belong to you anyway.
No, and it's interesting because the hard part with all of this, when you were asking, what advice would you give? The challenge for me, honestly, Randy, in over my career, which I'm approaching 30 years, in public sector and HR, just generally in that timing of all, different levels. When I've had to deal with somebody of high ego, the only advantage I would say I had is because I'm pretty even keel. So I'm just going to roll. I'm just going to roll with it. If you need to be stroked, more power to you. If I can get this done,
right,
and I know it's for the good of the team, give the credit to whoever needs the credit.
Yeah.
Does it tick me off in the background? Yeah, because I'm the one doing all the work.
Of course.
You just showed up.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's okay because I'm low ego and I don't need it. If you need to be stroked, I'll stroke you. If you need the credit, I'll give you the credit. I just want to know it's helping the team as a whole, not just my team, city team, private sector. When I was in private sector, I had somebody super high ego. And even then, and I was a young lady at the time. I mean, I was low 20s, and had become a supervisor for the first time. Even in those situations, it's okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're amazing. You did so great with that when you had all of us do the work. I'm so glad,
Yeah, but see,
that's in my head. That's in my head.
Yeah, but you've just distilled maybe the point of this whole episode, maybe unwittingly, but you did. And that is the toll. The toll. It can be you can be a contribution as a leader. You can contribute because an important point, as a leader, you are part of the team. You are not separate from the team. You are part of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully in a position of leadership, you're able to lead the team. So you can either be an impediment or you can be a contributor. And the good news is you get to decide. And if you put pride and ego up front, you're going to be an impediment. It's going to take a toll. It takes a toll on you. It does.
Mm-hmm.
Resentment, bitterness, can't believe.
It's just irritate. It's an irritation factor. That's like
right.
That thorn on the side that you're just like, going in, you're going to give the credit. Just resigned yourself to it. Just give them what they need to feel good about themselves. Right. But just how I'm talking, like you said.
Sure.
It doesn't last the test of time. You will not create a team. You won't because the person that's filled with pride and high ego feels that they are the only person smart enough to answer the question, that they are the only person that people should be coming to for wisdom. Therefore, guess what? They're not asking questions. Yeah. Silos, I can tell you, because I've seen it over and over, silos are created.
Sure.
Right? You're going to have silos created. You're going to have a team that doesn't work well together because they're just trying to survive their business, their industry.
Yeah.
I've seen it private sector. You in any industry you go, I've either worked with people dealing with it that I'm trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
But frankly, I have never seen it turn. I have never seen a person of high ego and high pride become low ego and humble. I just haven't seen it unless I haven't
I've
never seen it happen.
I haven't either. And to the point of the quote, T.S. Eliot, most of the trouble in the world is caused by people wanting to be important. I have a question. City Hall in Grand Prairie, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of City Hall? Is there a name?
Tom Hart. Yeah, it's Tom Hart. It's the Tom Hart complex, city complex.
Okay, describe Tom Hart and tell the audience kind of who Tom Hart was in a capsule.
He is a visionary, humble,
He was the city manager
compassionate.
for years and
Yes.
years.
Yes. Visionary, compassionate, humble, collaborator,
And City Hall is
and
named
wise beyond his age.
City Hall is named for him.
The whole complex, not just City Hall.
Yeah, yeah.
The
well,
whole complex,
right.
which has many buildings.
right. So,
Yes.
was he important?
He was
Yeah.
important, but that's not why he was named, right?
Yeah.
That's not, he was named because of I call it the legend. It's what his legacy is what he was named for. It's all that he represented. It wasn't his title. He wasn't named because he was the city manager of Grand Prairie. He was named because he left a legacy and a mark.
Yeah, because the impact was so deep and was so broad,
To
and
so
it
many.
was because he wasn't trying to hog all the glory and all the credit. And at the end of the day, it bears his name, which is a huge community recognition
Yeah.
of his contribution.
And
but
our new
he would
city
he would
manager,
he
yeah.
would argue. I know him well enough. He would argue it was all these people.
Yeah.
I mean, I had all these people.
He literally laughs stuff off.
Yeah.
Like he'll call me and I mean, he's just this kind of guy. I recently talked, I called him on something. They
Yeah,
told
we
me
need to
call
have him
for
back on
something.
the show, by the way.
We do. We were talking about having him, which he would be great. I'm talking about a culture shift.
Yeah. Yep.
Because he had to do that and he did it brilliantly. But we digress.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep going.
But he's that kind of guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just remember contacting him, and this is this kind of guy. I might have even been an HR manager and then later an HR director, but I remember calling him as a director at home about something he was working on. I was trying to get him an answer. And he goes, "Is this my favorite HR director in the whole world?" I mean, it's just that kind of,
Yeah. Right.
in that moment, I'm just trying to give him an answer like on a life insurance policy.
Right. Right.
That's the kind of guy that makes you feel, man, I feel
Yeah,
he values
that's
me.
not a
I mean,
guy. That's not a
and
guy
he's
who's
not
seeking to be
saying-
the most important guy in the room for sure.
He could have easily said, "Well, I was hoping you'd call. It's been 10 minutes."
Yeah, yeah. What took you so
I mean,
long?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally different
Right.
response. So anyway, all that to be said, high ego, back to your core question, I would be interested in turning that question on you when you were saying, what advice would you give? The best advice I can give with a person of high ego is if you're a leader leading them, try to demonstrate it to them, help them see it. So at least there's awareness, and try to provide insight on what they can do different and better. Because at this point, my view is I need to help the team because I've experienced it myself. And I want to help the team not go through that if I can shed a little bit of insight that might shift how they approach things, if they're willing to shift at all, which is the huge question. If you're being led by one, which is a different point, the best advice I can give is know, the old saying, correct me how it's said, Randy, but it's basically hold your friends close and your enemies closer. You need to know your enemy, and you need to not get in the way. I mean, that's the best thing I know how to tell you. If they need to be stroked, you need to know how to stroke them. You need to know how to build them up for what you are doing. It doesn't really matter. Just do a great job on what you're in control of. And hopefully it reflects well on the city. If they take credit, let them take credit. People are going to know who did what. They're just going to know it because they have the expertise on the topic. That's the only guidance I can give to survive it. And typically I haven't seen them last. They just don't. It doesn't last long. So it's like the game of Survivor. Outwit, outplay, outlast.
Thanks for watching and listening to Grow Great, a city government leadership podcast. For Lisa Norris, I'm Randy Cantrell. Be well, do good, grow great. The website is growgreat.com.